shooters are bad game design. Now, I'm not saying every loot shooter is a bad game. I'm not going to paint with that right off a brush. But what I am saying is that most modern loot shooters feel a lot like trying to pick the clothes up off your floor while being shot at during a drive-by. It's not a good time because the games are designed not for fun, but for manipulation. This all started with Borderlands in the Xbox 360 generation, which was a fun game. It was a game where you and your friend went out into an open world with a great story and funny characters and got billions of guns, according to Gearbox and Randy Pitchford, which, by the way, is incredible marketing. Let's make a bunch of claims that can't be confirmed or denied and spew them out there and see if everybody picks up on them. That's good. But Borderlands was a great game at the end of the day. Its foundational roots were story, gameplay, and enjoyment. But now, we have a whole different category of loot shooters that have risen to prominence thanks to EA and Ubisoft, and a little bit of Activision, but we'll get there. The first game design flaw that seems to be permeating all loot shooters nowadays is this crap. This behind me is what's called a monster closet. Now, in single-player games, this tool or development idea was used to push players forward, keep them moving, to keep them playing aggressively. The idea of a monster closet is enemies will continue to pour out of a space from predetermined areas for as long as you stay in a specific predefined point. Essentially, if you move past a specific imaginary line, the monsters stop coming out of the closet, but as long as you're within that line or behind it, they continue to flow out endlessly. Monster closet. The problem is, those were in predefined single-player linear spaces. Now, they're being used in open worlds, and they are atrocious. Anthem is one of the biggest perpetrators in this regard, but they've got what I'm going to call the defined monster closet. See, it's not endless, it's just for a short amount of time. Anthem's open world struggles for this very reason. The only time Anthem's world feels alive is when someone at the Wizards of Waverly Place sub shop opens a portal that enemies can crawl out of. It is terrible. The world feels completely dead until suddenly someone at Hogwarts decides that this is where enemies should be. These weirdly shaped portals send enemies flooding out of them for 5 to 10 minutes and then disappear, leaving you again with an empty world. Now, sometimes you'll come across a base where enemies already exist, but most of the time, the majority of the time, they're popping out of thin air. It's not good. It makes the world feel like it doesn't actually exist. It makes it feel artificial, like it's only there to challenge you as a player and not there to exist as a living, breathing space. Monster closets are not good game design. Imaginary portals are not good game design. They're poor game design, and they struggle in the open world space. This brings me to the next massive design flaw, and one that every single modern loot shooter suffers from. This is a wonderful episode of SpongeBob in which he very kinkily and weirdly loves Flats punching him for hours and hours and hours. We're gonna go past that, move beyond that reality. There was some weird stuff in our children's TV shows when we were growing up. But this is what it's like to play any loot shooter. I've made this reference before, and it's because it's important. This is bad game design. See, bullet sponges are used as a tool by developers. This tool is simple. If enemies go down in 2 seconds with the gun you have now, why exactly do I need to grind to get a new one? Why, if I'm going to take out a field of enemies in 30 seconds, why in the world would I want to spend time upgrading my armor? Bullet sponges are used to keep you manipulated, to keep you engaged, to keep you feeling like you need more. You need to spend more time with the game. You need more loot. The problem is, they suck and they're lazy. In what universe does this gun require 9 million shots into this man who was apparently the Hulk? I'm talking about 2005 Eric Bana Hulk, which by the way is better than the Edward Norton Hulk, which is an atrocious movie I just watched. But that doesn't matter. The point is, this is not what I should feel like I'm going up against every time I play the game. It's also a tool used by developers to make you feel like you should be playing with friends, or that when you are playing with friends, there's a challenge. This is lazy, ladies and gentlemen. It's really simple. This is a tool that exists only because developers don't have the time, energy, or resources to create better enemy diversity, better enemy AI, and better enemy level encounters. See, if they had the time, energy, or the desire to create smarter enemies, better AI, more enemies, more variety, bullet sponges would not be necessary. They wouldn't be an important part of the game. Instead, we constantly get stuff like this, and this, and this, and it is exhausting. It is not enjoyable. There's one particular enemy in the Division 2 beta that wears, well, I guess the Division 2 at this point, that wears armor, and that armor takes minutes to chew through. I mean minutes. I would rather spend the time plucking every hair off my arm than doing this for an entire game. But where things really fall apart for the game design of most modern loot shooters is in its namesake, the loot. Do you remember that feeling when you were little of walking into a McDonald's and knowing you were gonna get a dope ass toy out of that bag? I'm talking like some real cool Power Rangers type stuff, but then oh wait, what is this? For $5 with a Happy Meal, I can get a DVD that plays a terrible short cartoon on it? Oh my God, this is loot. The toy, the DVD, which was probably a VHS, all of it in one trip. I walked out of that McDonald's feeling rewarded for eating my Happy Meal. I felt like my time was well spent. I no longer feel that way with loot shooters at all. Borderlands did it right. Borderlands had a cacophonous amount of different guns. I don't know if it was a billion, but we're gonna move past that again. It was a variety of guns that mattered though. They did dramatically different things. They looked dramatically different. The design variety was incredible, and they all felt different. You always felt like I should be grinding this out. I wanna complete this mission. I wanna kill this thing because I know at the end of the day, there's a good chance I'm gonna get something totally new. That was fun. That was enjoyable. And it's because it didn't have to deal with the multiplayer microtransaction realities that its design wasn't as flawed as this. For the first 30 levels of Anthem, pre-endgame, you spend hours getting the same guns over and over and over again at different levels. And when I say the same guns, I mean these things have the exact same name. You're getting the exact same gun over and over and over and over again. It's not enjoyable. And then you get to the end game, and then you start to get masterworks, and they start to get a little different, but it's not enough at all. The problem with loot shooters now is that the loot has dried up. And why? These games know one thing. If they give you too much loot, if they give you loot that's too cool, you'll grow attached to it and stop feeling a need to continue to grind, continue to play, to continue to engage with the game. So they string you along, breadcrumb here, breadcrumb there, keeping you playing by giving you only the tiniest amount of cool with the loot. This makes sure you always want something better. You're always looking for something better. And this is simply manipulative. It's not a good system because it encourages the people that make these games to save pretty much everything that matters until the late game if they're going to give it to you at all. It destroys the normal experience of playing a game. If I want to spend 40 hours of Division, am I ever going to feel like I'm playing a fun loot shooter or getting fun loot? Who knows? If I play 90, maybe, but that reality only exists to keep me engaged for the reasons we're about to talk about now. The second biggest reality facing loot shooters that I think just really deteriorates the good mushy bottom of these games, the thing that really has them fall out through the floor, is the way they handle content. Let's go back to Borderlands 2. Borderlands 2 has no real multiplayer economy. Sure, there are keys and stuff like that, but this is just a game that has a story that you play through that's enjoyable and had some DLC packs. But when you picked up Borderlands 2 and played through it, you never felt like you were missing anything. You never felt like the game needed more content. You never felt like it was empty or that it wasn't complete. And now with loot shooters, they're designed to be incomplete. Let me explain that. In what facet of life, in what reality of life, would something being incomplete be considered a good thing? If you were 13 years old and you walked up to your teacher and said, "Here's my homework," and she looked at you and said you wrote nothing on it and you said, "Great," she's not gonna be stoked. If you sell cars for a living and you go to sign a contract and you go to your boss and you bring that contract to him and he looks at it and goes, "Hey, this is invisible ink," he's not gonna be stoked either. See, completing things is an important part of life. There's no job out there, there's no relationship out there where you're gonna come home and say, "Honey, I took out half the trash," and she's gonna be psyched that you dug through only half of it and took it out. That's not how this works. That's how loot shooters work though. And here's why. Destiny 2, The Division, Destiny 1, Anthem, they all feel like half of a game. They feel like this for a reason. See, these developers want to do something very simple. They want to give you just enough of a game so that you feel like there's something to play until they can give you something else and something else and something else. They give you one slice of pizza and they want to charge you for the rest of it. It's real simple. If I give you a full game, if they give you a full, beautiful 50, 60 hour experience filled with a wonderful story, great content, You're gonna play it for 50 or 60 hours. Some of you are gonna feel satisfied and you're going to leave, and the developers will have spent 3 years making good content and won't have anything to push out 3 months later, 4 months later, 5 months later, 6 months later to get you back into the game. So, you know, good games are not what we're trying to make here. Instead, we're trying to make serviceable games. You know, the food that's just warm enough to eat, but not warm enough to be enjoyable. That's what these developers are trying to make. Now, I know what you're thinking. Developers aren't trying to make bad games. No, but publishers want them to. See, publishers don't want to spend 4 years making the best content in the world and then just give it to you. That would be insane. They need you to come back to the game in a month to engage with more microtransactions. They need you to come back into the game 3 months later to buy an expansion. They need you to come back to the game 6 months later to buy the new loot boxes. They need you engaged. They need you to feel like you haven't gotten everything so that you want everything later. This trend of creating games that aren't finished, of creating games that are content deplete intentionally, on purpose. You think the people at EA don't know the Anthem story sucks? You think the people at EA are looking around going, you know what, we have 20 hours of content here, that's fine. No, of course they know this game isn't everything it should be. That's why there's content coming in March. That's 2 months later. That's the reality we're facing. Bad games designed to be incomplete to keep you wanting more, to keep you expecting more, and to keep you paying for more. And finally, the last little morsel of information here, this last little tidbit of knowledge that I impart to you is very simply, I don't care about playing dress up as much as you think I do. I really don't. It's not something that I desire. And this is the last thing that I personally, this is more of a personal gripe, don't like about the design of loot shooters. If you're going to ask me to play dress up, if you're going to ask me to make myself look pretty, if that's going to be the point of your game is cosmetic loot drops or cosmetic loot purchases, make it worthwhile. I want to look like David Hasselhoff riding a damn mermaid. I want to look like Miley Cyrus hanging off that precariously hung wrecking ball, which, by the way, what in the hell was someone thinking when they thought that up? I mean, seriously, what was that set like? Just a giant styrofoam ball that she's gonna lick? Who thought that was a good idea? I want to look like Hannah Montana for Strongholds and Miley Cyrus for Free Play. I mean, I want options. But instead, what loot shooters want to give you, specifically The Division, is here's a brown jacket that looks a lot like that tan one, but guess what? This one has a higher level. Oh, you want your armor to look cool? Why don't we take it from dirty to clean? That's not cool. That's not what I want, especially with a game like The Division, especially with a game like Anthem. These are third-person games. If you're gonna make me want to grind out cosmetic drops, if you're gonna make me go from dirty to clean, at least make that shit look cool. At least put me in one of them weird-ass Lady Gaga dresses. I mean, give me something to look forward to with loot. How has it gotten so bad? If the whole game revolves around cosmetic upgrades, why are they so awful? Name one item you got in The Division that made you look at yourself and go, this is pretty neat. Not a single one. Not one. You know what would make me hop into The Division 75 hours in? If I could dress up like SpongeBob with my crew of Patrick and Sandy. That would be awesome. I would do that. I would fight crime like that. I certainly would save the world like that. I guess my problem with loot shooters is that they seem to be intentionally designed to be nothing more than manipulative. They seem to be intentionally designed to eke the most money out of you, to keep you playing for the longest, to eke even more money out of you. I think that if there's somebody out there that can make a loot shooter with some foundation, a loot shooter that matters, maybe it is Gearbox, maybe it's Borderlands 3, I don't know, but we've gotten away from what it means to be a good loot shooter. But more importantly, loot shooters have gotten away from what it means to be a good game. I don't know who's going to right the ship. I don't know who's going to be our Leonardo DiCaprio pushing us away on a door to save our lives, but I hope that some developer out there sees these problems, sees these games and goes, we can do this better. It's all we want. Be our savior, somebody. I know you're out there.